Hello and welcome to Self Sovereignty. And I am so excited to get started with this episode because we're going to discuss how to unlock your potential for a healthier life through the power of belief and initiating change. And to help guide us through this discussion is our special guest, Karen Wilson. And Karen is a lifestyle transformation coach and founder of Creative Life in Motion. Karen is also an author and a professional storytelling speaker and managing partner of CE Analytics Limited. Karen, hello and welcome to Self Sovereignty. And thank you so much for taking time to meet with us today. Take time out of your busy schedule to talk about some life-changing, aspirational type of opportunities for our listeners.
Oh, it's really I really appreciate being here. This is my favorite topic is like just digging into always finding different corners to improve life, improve how you feel about yourself. I just love talking about this stuff. So thanks for inviting me on.
Awesome. And I do want to get to your book and get a better understanding of your book. And I know that you're very into the power of walking and the importance of walking to help transition to a healthier lifestyle. And, spring is in the air everywhere. It's a great
Yeah.
opportunity to plant those new seeds, for growth and maybe a transformational lifestyle. And so I wanted to start by maybe just from a foundational perspective for somebody that's a little out of shape.
Mhm.
I admit I probably had a few too many chips over the winter holidays and stuff. So maybe some things that we can do just to kind of get started, to get off the couch, to get out, walking, exercising, but doing it in a way that is sustainable, I guess, because that's the main thing.
Mhm.
I remember I did a video at the beginning of the year talking about New Year's resolutions, and I hate those because they always
Mhm.
fail for
Yeah.
me. And then, the research showed that 23% of people quit their resolution by the end of January, and 43% quit by or the end of the first week, and 43% quit by the end of January. And so,
Yes.
you know, we want to get beyond the resolution part and kind of ease into
Mhm.
it to a degree that's comfortable for us, that fits our lifestyle, but also moves us forward, right?
Yeah, I think that, there's a couple of things. And I think one of the universal things that people struggle with is time, is finding time, and it has to be kind of juicy enough. You know, like what am I gonna get from going for a walk? And a lot of times, myself included, I feel as though, well, the only thing I'm gonna get is more behind on my work,
Mm.
or I'm not gonna get the dishes done, or I'm not gonna be able to do this for so and so, or there's all these things that are
Mhm.
stacked up in our day, especially in the modern world, that it feels as though, just going for a walk is not really going to benefit the day. And I came into walking accidentally. I when I was a little girl, I was pretty convinced I was going to be famous and a movie star or maybe a singer or a dancer, and but I was definitely the largest child in school, in elementary school and in middle school, and um, I was, made fun of quite often because my size was quite a bit bigger. And I became comfortable with that. I became a good sport, and just I was in this mindset that this is just the way I am. This is going to be the way that I am always going to be. So I left school at an early age just to quiet the noise and got a job at Dairy Queen and enjoyed more treats, enjoyed, all of that life had to offer. And by the time I was about 25, 26, I was a single mom to 5-year-old boy. And I had gallstones, I had problems, I was borderline pre-diabetic,
Hmm.
and my son started school, and I had to walk him to school every morning because we didn't have a car. And it wasn't very far. It was about 2 blocks all downhill. But the problem was I had to walk back up the hill. And everybody could see me, and everybody could see that I was overweight and panting and sweating, and it was hard. And maybe they would think that I was trying to lose weight, and they'd laugh at me. And so I found the long way to come home. I purposefully took 30 minutes to get home so that I could go around the hill and up gradually. But what happened is I became a completely different person, both physically and mentally. And I like to call it my accidental weight loss. I would have never done it had I not had to commute. And
Hmm.
I think that what a lot of us do is that when we go set out to make a fitness goal and a health goal, we have this misconception that we have to do a lot to get what we want out of it. But the one thing that we need to know is why we're doing it. But it doesn't have to be a big reason. It
Hmm.
can literally be a commute. I think a lot of times we overthink getting started. So my first tip would be just do it. I know it sounds simple, but you got to just fit in the time, make it small, make it 10 to 20 minutes and just go and do it and then watch that accumulate over time.
So
I
just
know
kind
that
of
was probably a
just
long answer.
just baby steps. Just don't worry about putting
Mhm.
in a schedule, because I think you're right. I think a lot of times we look at our schedule and we want to try to put fitness in it, or eating healthy or whatever, and pretty soon you're trying to squeeze more blocks of time in to a schedule that's
Yeah.
already impactful. So it doesn't have to be a 1 hour walk. If you can get off the couch and you can go for a 10-minute walk every day for the first week or so, you're going to feel better.
Yeah. Absolutely. And so that's where I always say to start by looking at your schedule for the
Mhm.
week. I always have a habit of looking at my schedule either Monday morning first thing or Sunday night. And I've done this for so long, I have it in my head, like I kind of know what I'm going to do, but then I put it down on paper, and you schedule in when you're going to take their walks. Now, I recommend choosing one of 3 times. It's either first thing in the morning or at lunchtime or after dinner. And here's why, because it's attached to something else. So in the morning, you wake up, and if you go for a walk, you can do it before anybody or anything ever needs you. So that's for the person that just can't seem to pull themselves away, a real people pleaser.
Mhm.
I'm like that. That's how I became a morning person, was because if I don't do it in the morning, I will never get it done. Right.
Right.
And then there's the lunchtime walk, which you know, most people do have a lunch hour or a lunch break, or, it doesn't have to be at that time, but it is a time where you break away from your work day. And, you can either have a light meal and go for a walk, or go for a walk and then have your light meal. It doesn't matter what order, put it in the order that makes sense to you, or after dinner. Again, it's something that you can attach something to.
Mhm.
Kind of like tiny habits, but you want to make them a little bit bigger.
Right, right.
I
Gradually.
use a lot of gestures.
That's fine. And for you, so it sounds like in your situation, there might have been a sense of embarrassment, and so you took a long way around,
Yeah.
um, just to kind of hide, maybe, if you will. And then this
Hmm.
magical thing happened where you started feeling better and having more energy, and you didn't even realize, I mean, that wasn't really a goal, it sounds like, but
No. No, there wasn't a goal. Like literally every step was a place I had never been before.
uh,
Nobody was more surprised than me,
yeah.
that I I was just shocked that this body that I dreamed of when I was a little girl of being, more athletic, more lean, um, you know, being able to fit into normal size clothes, from going from, by the time I was 13, I'm in the ladies clothes and at Sears, ladies plus size. And
Hmm.
so being, this was just a person that I had no idea was in my realm of possibility. So that actually, it started a chain of just new events. I thought, well, I could eat a little bit healthier, and after gallbladder removal, it feels better
Right.
to
Yeah.
eat better. And so I was just kind of going by feel, feeling better each day, enjoying what I was seeing in the mirror. It didn't it didn't take very long for me to understand that the walking was connected to it,
Hmm.
connected to my whole sense of worth. I was thinking more back then. I didn't have like a Walkman. If I wanted to bring music with me, it would have been like this big,
Sure.
in my
Yeah. Yeah.
pocket. So I was forced to think about, where I was, what I was doing with my life. And after that happened, I thought, well, what else can I do that I didn't think I could do? It just opened up so many doors for me because I had put myself in the mindset that I I'm never able to change
Well, and that's where I
to,
wanted to go with it because it really
yeah.
is a holistic approach, and it involves
Hmm.
the mind, the body, the purpose, your spirit. And a lot of times, when we have something that's holding us back, it's a subconscious
Yeah.
mindset, and that's the realm where I work with individuals with helping them through their anxieties, fears, limiting beliefs, and self doubts. And so, if you're a little overweight, for example, you may feel like I don't deserve for some reason in your subconscious mind, and you don't know why, but I don't
Yeah.
deserve to be that thin, beautiful person, or, you know, I, I have an anxiety. I can't go hiking and stand at the edge of this cliff because I have this anxiety of heights, all of that's in the
Yes.
mind. All of that can be transformed very easily.
Yes.
You just have to kind of be willing to put yourself out there and do it and do some work. And, I work with individuals and we go through a process of subconscious mindset transformation. You're kind of doing the same
Hmm.
thing by getting individuals that you work with out walking, probably without that stereo where, there's nothing
Yeah.
else in their head except,
Yes.
what they want to focus on, and starting to believe that, hey, look at me, I've been walking for a week. I can do this.
That's well, it's hard. I have the saying that I've said quite often is I didn't know I could until I did.
Mm, yeah.
And it's something that's shown up in my life over and over. It is a pattern, just like you say, Steve. Like even for me, even I'm turning 51 this week. And so
Birthday.
there's been decades of up and down. Like, I had my great big, I call it my great big accidental weight loss because it was the most weight that I had lost. But then there's this time where the body gets to, I'm sure you're aware of it, homeostasis.
Mhm.
And what it wants to do, and it does do, is you'll typically get down to your lowest weight and then gain about 10 pounds. And this is where I found the most struggle and the most triumph and the most of myself because I had to learn over and over again to detach my physical body from my self worth. It's going to go up and down, but it doesn't mean I'm a bad person. And I find that walking has always been a vehicle that has kept me grounded I went into teaching fitness classes. I became a personal trainer. I taught group fitness. I was a cosmetician. I did those in unison
Mhm.
for quite a few years. And what I found was when I was up in weight, I almost felt like an imposter. You know, people aren't coming to my classes because they've noticed I've gained a little bit of weight and they don't think my program works anymore. You know,
Yeah, yeah,
the voices come back, right? And then they I think it's really difficult work that you do and necessary work that you do because the more we get to know ourselves, the more I find things open up, opportunities open up. It's like, oh, that's why I feel this way. Well, I can go back and I can repair this
right.
so that the next time I feel that way, I can move through it.
Yeah, I think that's
And I just
beautiful.
love
And
that.
I agree. I mean, and that's where the self-care comes in. That's so important that we
Mhm.
try to be there for so many other people, our spouses, our family, our kids or whatever. But if we don't take care of who we are, then
Yes,
we're not really there for them at the level that we need to be. We don't have the right
that's right.
mindset. And so,
Right.
and to no fault to us or even to, those in our past, most of our perceptions of who we are perceptions based off of those around us when we were young, our parents, our siblings, our
Mhm.
teachers, um, coaches or whatever, and if you're told you're not good in sports when you're a kid for whatever reason, well, you're going
Yeah.
to believe that. You're going to take that to heart,
Yes.
especially if it's coming from your parents and or if you try to get up, to speak in public or to play an
Mhm.
instrument and maybe you say something silly and the whole class laughs at you. You're a little bit
Yes. Yeah.
embarrassed, blood pressure goes up and your knees shake. And that event happened years and years ago. And now you're a grown person and you're in sales, but
Hmm.
you can't get up and speak in public, and that's holding you back. You may not even
Yeah.
remember that event from many years ago, but you can
That's
transform
right.
all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know what? It even when you do, when you do move through the transformation, fear and excitement feel the same. They 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 create the same sensations in the body. So, before I go on to stage, every time I love the end result. I love the connection that I make with the audience. But minutes before, I'm scolding myself for signing up for this dang thing. Like what have I done to myself?
Right.
And
Yeah.
why am I doing this? And so it's just like a workout, though. It takes so much effort and work to get your shoes on and get
Mhm.
out the door. But you got to remember what it feels like when you're done, because that's that one thing that I find it is the hardest thing is getting the shoes on and getting out the door. So I have, do you want a couple of tips for that?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yes.
Okay, so tip number one is motivation. A lot of times where I hear the phrase a lot, well, I'm just not motivated.
Uh-huh.
And I always remind myself of this phrase, motivation is an action. I can't remember which mentor I heard it from, but I'm like, okay, so motivation is an action. So literally it takes just as much motivation for me to go fill up my coffee cup as it does to put my shoes on. If it's just an action, then if I get through that action and I tell myself I can do 5 minutes, by the
Mhm.
time you're 5 minutes in, you're enjoying yourself and you go to 30. Where I find we get into trouble is when you're feeling good at 30 and then you go for an hour and then you feel really bad the next day because maybe you haven't walked in 10 months and your muscles hurt. Stop at 30.
Right, right.
Stop it.
Yeah.
Just stop at 30. Stop when you're still feeling great. And then that's going to give you the momentum to continue the next day.
I
That's
love
that's
that.
the secondary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like, you've heard the phrase of putting together a vision board of things that you want, that you were inspired to get or to do. And,
Yeah.
it may be that house, it may be that nice big new house, or, something else. It may be converting a van for, living in a van or camping or whatever. And I think a better approach is not necessarily taking a picture of the big house. I mean, that's the end game,
Hmm. Hmm.
but what are the steps along the way? The what do you have to do? It's kind of break it down point by point. You need to
Yes.
decide what area you want to be in, and what size house do you want? And kind of in your mind, by using that vision board, you're stepping through a progressive process or phase to get you to where you want to be, which is easier than just looking at a big, beautiful house and say, that's not me. I don't deserve that. I can't ever aspire to get
That's
that,
right.
you know?
Yes. It's like what do I need to do to get there, and
Yes.
who do
Yeah.
I need to be today,
Yeah,
you know.
absolutely. And that's
And
like,
so
oh, go ahead.
I also like about 5, 6 years ago, I had to learn what it really means to like and honor my body, because I was doing too much, I didn't think walking was enough for me anymore because, I have the genes to get really big if I need to. And I would put on weight, and I thought, well, I'm going to just start running, because running must be better than walking, right? And then
Mhm.
I got addicted to running. Here's another tip. If you sign up for something like a race, you're guaranteed to do the miles to get there. However, you don't need to do them all the time. But I went to half marathon, from 5K to 10K to half marathon, did half a dozen of those. And then I did my full marathon within a year of just starting to run. And I did that, and my body started to like really gain weight. And I thought, what is going on? And at that time, I didn't understand that I was doing too much, creating too much cortisol. I had passed my personal threshold. Everybody has one. But
Mhm.
it was still a huge accomplishment, right? I wouldn't turn it in for anything, because I mean, after I crossed that finish line, I realized, wow, I can't believe I did that.
Right. Yeah.
And again, it's another thing that, oh, well, if I did that, what else can I do? And but after that, that's when I became a fitness instructor. That's when I had that chapter. So I was running less. And then I decided in 2018, my husband and I, we like to do experiences. So we decided we were going to sign up for the New York Marathon through Dream Travel. And so it's a whole, travel experience. You sign up for the marathon, you get guaranteed entry. And it had been a long time since I was running, and I was still teaching fitness. And I decided I'm going to do this, and I'm going to train. And at 45, my body did not respond the same way it did in my 30s, and I hit a real bonk.
Mhm.
And for the first time in my life, I would felt detached from my body, and I felt like and this is when I really felt like an imposter. Like I'm doing all the things. I'm eating healthy. I'm working out. I'm working out a lot,
Mhm.
and I'm a wreck. And so is everything that I've taught people, that I'm not taking my own advice. I'm not taking the rest in. I'm telling everybody else to do 30 or 40 minutes and I'm doing 4 hours,
Yeah.
And I had to really take a look at what does being in a healthy body really look like? And that's when I also had to reset my nervous system. And everything that I learned in that phase was all about being kinder to myself. And guess what? My doctor had approved walking. Do all the walking that you can, walk.
Yeah.
Go for a
Yeah.
walk. So here's a tool that is just so gentle and so amazing all at once that there really is no excuse not to go for a walk.
Yeah. You don't
You
need
know,
expensive equipment. You don't
no.
need a membership. You might need a decent pair of shoes. That's,
Yes. Yeah.
and the right mindset. You
Yes.
mentioned something earlier that I wanted to go back to because you said, when you
Yes.
did it, I was like, oh my gosh, I did that. I didn't know that I could do it, but I did it. I was able to accomplish,
Yeah.
you know, and and that's pretty parallel with what we do with Side K because when we're trying to help an individual step through an anxiety or a fear or a self-doubt limiting belief, we come
Hmm.
up with a goal statement of, how do you want that experience to be in the future? And so
Yes.
it might be that you're going to step on stage as a musician or give a
Hmm.
presentation. And we want you to think about, um, how do you want to feel after you gave that presentation? And what do you want
Yes.
people to say? What do you want their response to be? It might be, oh my gosh, she is so knowledgeable about this topic. And then we
Hmm.
try to correlate that with, have you ever been in a situation where you did something and it may not be the same. It may just be, you did something else and you got accolades for it. You felt great, and for you, that might be, like a nice, cool feeling or a soft, silky blouse, or it could be like a warm wool sweater. And
Oh,
then you go in,
wow.
and then you go into that visualization of you step yourself onto the stage for your performance,
Yeah.
and you generate that you're doing your performance and the audience is loving it. And when you're done, they love it. They stand up. You're happy. You feel that nice, cool breeze of success, and basically
Yes.
overwrite your subconscious fears and anxiety with these new
Yes.
perspectives, the new emotional feelings. And I think that you can get a lot of that same kind of accomplishment from walking. If
Yeah.
you want to be healthier, and even if you're just
Mhm.
doing it for 10 minutes, 20 minutes a day, when you get done with that initial walk, that first time you step out and you get home, how do you want to feel? So if you leave your
Yes.
house with that kind of a mindset that says, I'm going to walk around the block and I'm going to be winded and I'm going to be sweaty or whatever, but I'm going to feel
Yes.
good, you know,
Yes. Yeah.
and just unplug and just do it and breathe it in, take it in, you earn it in life.
You do. And it does, I feel like it's almost irresponsible not to tell people that it's going to take discipline, probably the first week, the second week for sure, and the third week absolutely. It's you're going to need all the discipline to just get yourself out the door, because after week two, like week one, it's the honeymoon stage.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, this is great, I'm having a good time, I'm feeling things different. Week two, you're carrying that over, you start to feel different in your clothes, feel different about your day. And then week three comes, and I don't know what it is, but I think sometimes, I don't know if you've ever read the work of Stephen Pressfield. Have you heard of him?
No, I haven't.
He has this, one of his books is The War of Art. And he talks about resistance, and resistance
Okay.
in the form of, people, you know, becoming priority over yourself. There's so many different types of resistance that keeps us from doing what we want to do. And it usually kind of sets in the third or the fourth week. And once you get yourself over, those humps of what we can call resistance, or, if you go 2 or 3 days in a row without doing anything, that's dangerous, especially as you're getting the momentum going, because you're creating and building a habit. But once the habit is there, I'm not even kidding, you will like literally crave it. And if
Mhm.
if it happened to me, it'll happen to anyone. Like you just, and once you crave it, then you've done what you do with people there, Steve, is that you've shifted, and it is a perfect pair with what you do with your clients, because you're giving them from what I hear, a set of affirmations, a set of visualizations. And when you power that with walking, it's it's incredible. It's almost like it supercharges it. I have, when I'm working on something that is creative, or when I'm working on some deep work on myself, and I go out into the forest and I go for my walk. I do have a dog with me now, so you don't have to get a dog to go for a walk. I walked for many years without a dog,
Oh, get a dog.
but
Everybody needs a dog.
that's the only accountability you need. The dog. They'll get you out for sure. But anyways, so we go out to the forest, and I'll be going, and I'll be sorting through things in my mind, and I'll get a clarity bomb. I call them clarity bombs, because it'll either be something that will direct me directly to the thing that I'm working on, which is usually reprogramming a limited belief, or
Right.
trying to understand why I'm feeling one way or another, or trying to work through something, or the next line or the next chapter in my book that I'm writing, or it's just there and it's accessible. And there's something about moving forward and walking and the subconscious mind working together. And
Yeah.
so it's hands down. Um, if I could only take one thing with me to a deserted island, I would be walking shoes, because I know I'm
That's
going to do
awesome.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's interesting just how much power we have over ourselves through understanding and changing our subconscious mindset. The transformation of
Yeah.
subconscious mindset can make a world of difference. I mean, we're all brought into this life, and we don't have any anxieties and fears, and we learn those,
Yes.
at certain ages. And it may not be, it's from things that we learn, our perceptions of others around us, and what
Hmm.
we're told. And some of it may be well intended, like, for example, finish your plate. You can't go outside and play. You have to eat everything on your plate, and
Yeah.
as a kid, you do that because that's what you're told to do.
Yeah.
Well, your parents and those that are telling you to do that just want you to be healthy.
That's
But
right.
30 years later, you're, a grown man or whatever, and you can't sit down with a plate full of food and not finish it because in your
Yeah.
subconscious, you've been told, and you may not make that association, but in your subconscious, you're told finish your plate. Now, if you're going to a
Yes.
buffet all the time and you're stacking it up, you're going to finish that plate because that's what and so you have to
Yes.
be able to overwrite those old subconscious habits and mindsets. And you can do it, and
Yeah.
it's amazing how fast you can do something like that too when you break it down, at just a smaller bite-sized step or process. And
Yeah, it doesn't and that we were talking about New Year's resolutions and stuff, and it's like, I think that that's why a lot of times they fail. And I almost did that to myself this year. It doesn't go away. The desire to improve yourself and just grab on to everything all at the same time, it's just a recipe for disaster. And so, like, we're recording this in April, and this is kind of around the time where people either it is like the new year, or they're like, I tried something, it didn't work. And I always say, scale back
Mhm.
and see what happens. Right. So the next time you go out for a fitness program or to get a healthier lifestyle, and you do want to combine good nutrition with whatever you're doing, but that doesn't mean always taking things away. It could be adding water, um, adding salsa to those chips. So you're getting vegetables. Just instead of really pulling back all the time, try adding what
Yeah.
you're
So,
missing.
and when you say scale back, it's kind of like releasing some of the pressure you put on yourself to
Yeah.
kind of drive so hard towards that certain, goal or whatever. Um,
Everybody wants a recipe. Everybody wants do this, that, this, that, this, that, and you're going to get this.
yeah.
But unfortunately, the answers are not out there. They're in here, and it takes a lot longer to find them.
So
Um,
let's talk about the concept of being weightless. So I know that's one of the
yes.
things that you speak about, and I don't know if that's in line with where we were just at and talking about and scaling back, but
Yeah.
maybe kind of enlighten us.
Yeah. So I wrote the book, Be Weightless Like Your Body, Love Yourself. And I I had to write that book because that was in 2021. And I had just spent about a year and a half reprogramming my nervous system. And after I lost my accidental weight and I, entered into the fitness industry, I could never really find anything that would help me maintain my weight loss. Everything that talked about weight loss maintenance was so connected to weight loss, and you got to be on a calorie deficit and move more and eat less, and I was, doing all of that, and it wasn't until I was able to meticulously count every blueberry, everything that went in my mouth for about 9 months. And then I got the camera and I started taking some pictures of myself. And I was using filters and I was doing all the things. And I finally got this body that I thought I loved, right? Just so strong and so defined.
Mhm.
And I hadn't lived it much to get there. Like everything was so meticulous. And all of my worth was wrapped in compliments. When I was really lean, people were always complimenting me. You look so great. How'd you lose all the weight? And yeah, I was honest and stuff. And oh, I could never do that. And I'm thinking to myself, yeah, it's really hard. I don't even know why I'm doing it. Um, and And it was almost like a lie. Like nobody would ever come up to me and say, "Hey, you look so great. What'd you gain? Like 50 pounds?"
Mhm.
Um, well, but there's always these compliments that come flooding in when it releases.
Mhm.
So I was continuing to go back to those patterns of connecting my worth to my size. And people do mean well, they compliment you and they mean well. But it can be received in that type of light from somebody that, like myself, that has struggled with weight. There was a window in my journey where I was training for half marathons before I went full into the full marathons. And I was eating what I would like to call energetically, where I knew what types of foods to grab from the grocery store, if it's natural, if it's one ingredient, it's meant to be in me. And I would just make lots of meals like that. So I was eating whole, but not meticulously. I was eating quite a bit, and I felt amazing, and I looked amazing, and I literally felt weightless. Like everything just seemed really balanced.
Mhm.
And then I gained 10 pounds, and I was trying so hard to lose it that I would try absolutely everything. And then I already told you a little bit earlier about I call it the big bonk. And it was after that that I learned, kind of relearned, what was I doing in that phase where I felt weightless? And how was I being so kind to my body? And so how can I teach people to do things with their body to actually convince their body that they're like it? Because ask any women and men for that matter, do you love your body? And usually the answer is, yeah, but.
Mm. Yeah.
So how can we take that but away by just doing the things that we need to do to convince our bodies that we like them? And then we'll actually learn how to love ourselves, because those are the acts of love. And so I felt I had to a responsibility to write the book and uncover the ugly side of weight loss, where I share all of my personal stories and anecdotes about the transformation, not only physically but mentally, when you're learning how to identify with a new body, and how other people perceive you is different too. And it was just a real emotional roller coaster for me that I hid. And I thought, well, I have to get this all out on
Yeah.
paper. So I sat down and I had the book written and self-published within 90 days. So
Wow.
it's in a rewrite right now,
That's
because
awesome.
I was kind of, yeah, thank you. I really wanted it to get out quickly, and I'm proud of it. It's a really great piece of work, but I have more that I would like to add to it. So I'm working on right now, getting some reader feedback, and I'm looking for someone to write a forward. And I
Mm.
have some other components that I would like to add to the book and do a second edition.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And I think that the thing that you key in on is that it's not just in this case, the weight loss is not just the physical. It's not just
Yeah. Yeah.
the body component. The mind is so important to be aligned with that. So it's, because you're going to have struggles, and you have to have the right mindset to believe in
Yeah.
yourself, that you're going to, make it through this journey, and set the right goal for yourself to get there. And, whether it takes 3 months, 12 months, whatever, if you believe that you deserve that, and you believe
Mhm.
in yourself, and you can see yourself physically looking different and mentally being stronger because of that, and you can lock
Yeah.
into that, that's what success looks like. It's
That's
envisioning
right.
who you are in the future, but it's also encapsulating mentally that that's who you are now, you know?
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
so,
So like that's just the thing is I wanted to be a writer when I was 7, and uh, and so I think that was one of the fuels of writing the book is that, if you want to be a writer, you got to write every day. And
right.
so I did. And so in the process of writing the book, it was just this magical connection of what we've been talking about throughout this episode is how I had this system where I would get up in the morning, I pour my coffee, I would write for an hour, like I did 2 25-minute sprints. I'd grab my dog and we'd go to the bush and we'd go for a walk for about half an hour.
Right.
And while
Yeah.
I was there, I'm pulling out my phone every 10 minutes and I'm like voice memoing, blah, 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 because all that creative flow was going through. But then I wouldn't touch the book until the next day. You see, I
Mhm.
could go home and try to get it all written within a week. And a lot of people, writers do that, but I found that this was accessible to me. And I have 2 more books written in rough draft manuscript
That's
right now
awesome.
that I
Yeah.
haven't, that I've done the same thing with, but haven't taken them through the finish line.
The important thing
Yeah.
there is you mentioned that you wanted to be a writer since you were 7.
Yeah.
And I think the first step there is standing in front of the mirror and looking at yourself and saying, I am a writer. And
Yes.
believing that
Yeah.
you are a writer. Then all you have to do is write the book, So
Yeah.
what do you do? If you're a writer, what do I have to do? I have to have an outline, and then I have to start filling
Yeah.
it from
Yeah.
there. And pretty soon, guess what? You're looking in the mirror again saying, I'm a writer. Well, I'm a writer with an outline. I'm a writer with chapter 1. I'm a writer with the first
Yes.
proof of the
Yeah.
book. It's that whole
It's funny
subconscious.
because
Mhm.
when I was running, I couldn't even call myself a runner. I would refuse to call myself a runner because I was like, I don't have a runner's body, so
Yeah,
those those trickles of self-doubt and who you are. Like if you are running, you're a runner. If you're writing, you're a writer. If you're
yeah,
walking, you're a walker. Like I think a lot of times exactly what you're saying is people think that they need to get to the finish line to get the candy or get that's a
right.
bad analogy, but
Yeah,
get the
but
goods. And they're accessible every single day. Every single day. You don't have to wait
and it's
to
easy
be
to
who
get
you want
caught
to be.
up in the imposter syndrome too when you're talking about an
Mhm.
aspiration like writing or even this, doing stuff on YouTube. It's like,
Yes.
I got a YouTube channel. Well, is there a imposter component to that? Maybe at the beginning, but then you just have to realize it's like, you know what? I'm I'm in training. I'm in education. It's
Yeah.
okay to be where you're at in the process of that journey, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So, you know,
That's right. And you know what? If your video gets like 700 views in a year, that's 700 people. Like if you visualize 700 people whose lives you've touched, most people in this type of work, they listen, they don't comment, but you help. And so the ripple effect goes through, right? And so that's another thing that I learned and I think is that you're not in charge of who, like once you release it,
yeah,
it's there for who needs to receive it. And that part, that's not up to you anymore. Right.
right.
And so some people will come back and they'll say, oh, well, you really helped me. And some people will just be really helped in silence. But good on you for doing it, right? Because we need that. We need
Yeah,
it.
absolutely. And I think, we need to do it respectfully in a way that, we're not pushing our agenda or our perspectives on other
Yeah.
individuals. It's like, you have to be your own person and other people have to be
Yes.
their own person. And you may not necessarily believe with, or align your beliefs with them and what they're doing.
Yeah.
As long as it's not harmful, you get to that point
Hmm.
where you just kind of separate and be able to say, I understand. I don't necessarily believe in what you're wanting to do,
Yeah.
but that's for you and not me, and I still love you unconditionally, kind of a thing.
Absolutely. It's self-sovereignty, right? You're
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
in control of your actions and what you would like to absorb.
Mhm.
And you don't, and it's okay. And it's okay if someone else has a different set of thoughts and beliefs and doesn't make them, I mean, you're both human, right? And
Absolutely. Yeah.
you're all
And
of our experiences make up the whole of our parts, and they're all unique. So,
yeah, and they're on their own life journey. And so you can give
yeah.
your perspective or, analogies of things that you've experienced, but at the end of the day, it's their life. They have to struggle, they have to fall off the bicycle, they have to get their knees
I
skinned
want you
up a
to
little bit.
struggle.
Yeah.
Yes, that's where the fight is. I mean, like, I one of the things that I've always said is no accountability buddies. Like, I don't. Oh, early in my early days of the fitness career, I was advised to make accountability groups, and so you can help people be accountable. And I'm like, why? I don't. I wouldn't like that. How much time do I have to give, to because that's another objection is I don't have time. So why do I have to go and check in with an accountability buddy? Like that's going to take my time. And so our accountability is in the mirror anyways, so why not just be real about that from the get-go?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's great to have support. That's a different thing. Or, to meet up with other people that are doing the same thing. I'm all for that. But to be reliant on somebody else, it's a danger zone, right?
I agree with that. I think at the end of the day,
Yeah.
it's your journey, it's your destiny, you need to do it.
Yeah.
Now, if you want to do it with a partner or whatever, that's fine, but don't expect them to always be responsible for calling to get you out the door to do whatever, you know.
Exactly. Exactly.
So you have a book out now and a couple more in process. How can folks
Yes.
find your book and your website? I know you've got a website kind of. And also, do you work with individuals one-on-one or group
I
sessions?
haven't really op- I haven't really opened up very much one-on-one for some time, but I am starting to open that up a little bit. It's it's quite a commitment. I go through like when I'm working one-on-one with somebody, we're not just talking about the physical body. We go right I like to say we go right to the root,
Hmm,
and we go to the things that you want to be doing that you're not, and we map out plans on how to make that happen,
gotcha.
and in an easier way. And so it takes quite a commitment from the person that I'm working with. I meet them halfway, and so it's not for everyone. For sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Everything, you can find everything about me at Karen Wilson online. You can find my book there. You can join my email list. But I have a walking program, and so everything is there on the homepage. All different ways to work with me at this time. But like we've been discussing, it's all about making sure that you have enough time and space to keep yourself in the game. And I don't want to be. I actually I did tell you a bonk story, but you know how all the personal development people out there, they all have built this billion-dollar industry,
Oh,
and then they have a book on how to balance your life so you don't hit burnout like I did. And I'm very, very cautious to ensure that, I believe that I can build a business in a balanced way without having to um, burn out along the way. I think it's possible. We have these passions and we have day jobs too,
yeah.
right? So it's but
And
it's
again,
life's work.
and I love the power that you can get from walking. The results that you can get simply from walking physically and mentally. I've got a friend that used to own a fitness gym, did a lot of work with guys, mostly men, that were heavy
Yeah.
bodybuilders and in
Yeah.
the MMA martial arts type um, area. And guys would come in, they'd get fit for a while, and then they'd stop, and then 6 months later, so they'd come back in, and they're almost starting over. And he started kind of
Yes.
realizing that this repeat um, process of what he was seeing, and decided to close that and just focus on core movement. And
Yeah.
and he tells people that he works with now, it's like, if you're a grown adult, you should be able to go to the playground with your kids and do a cartwheel and roll and tumble
Yeah.
and just
Yes.
core movements like that, walking
Hmm.
and playing on the monkey bars or whatever, and doing cartwheels. If
Yep.
you can get there, that's really what you need. That's the physical. Uh,
Exactly.
yeah,
I like to say train for who you want to be in 10 years, right? So, which is probably who you want to be right now as well. So if you want to, like using myself as an example, when I'm 60, I want to be able to climb mountains. So my practice right now is hiking and climbing mountains. I want to be able to dance. So I should probably make sure I put in a dance workout once a week so that I can still dance on the floor. I want to be able to fall down and get up. So I should do some floor up down exercises, right? So
yeah,
anything you want to continue to mobilize in the future, you have to practice now and have that be your workout because that's what the human body was for. But start with walking because you have to make the time and the
yeah,
desire for it first.
yeah.
And that's one way to link it all together.
And
Then
the
on
cost of
your walk,
entry
you
is
can,
so small, decent pair of
yeah,
tennis
yeah,
shoes and 10, 15, 20 minutes every day. And then see where you're
that's
at the
right.
end of a week, right?
You're going to meet people out there when you're walking and get invited to things. You just don't know until you get going, right? Or
Yeah.
you'll remember something about your childhood like, gosh, I really enjoyed that salsa class I took when I was in university or whatever,
Yeah. Yeah.
and decide I'm going to do that again,
Yeah. That's healthy.
right?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
Karen, thank you so much for taking time to talk to us and encourage individuals to just get out there, start walking, just giving individuals the confidence to be able to start small, baby steps, and start moving forward to a healthier lifestyle. Is there
I
anything else
really
that you would like to add before? And I'll certainly put up the link to your website and the book. But if there's anything else that you want to add before we close.
No, just if I was just going to say one thing is just enjoy the process because it's lifelong. And let go of the need to get to your goal within a month. I mean, it's great to have that dangling out there to give motivation. You get motivation from anything. It's a great start.
Right.
But make sure that you're thinking about the big picture along the way and doing what makes you happy.
I
Nobody
love that.
else.
Yeah.
Just
Don't burn
you.
yourself out along the way, you know?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
and and if you get off your journey or your schedule or whatever, start over. Don't beat yourself up over it, you know?
Yeah. And that's what another thing I love to say too is like if you're starting over, you've never quit,
That's
right?
great. That's
So
great.
stop calling yourself a quitter
Yeah.
because you're there. So
I
yeah.
love that. All
Anyway,
right. Thank
I
you
feel
so
like we could
much.
probably talk for hours.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Well, maybe we can do this again. This has been fun. I appreciate it.
Yes.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right.